Hello and welcome to another edition of Cooking for Independence Day and getting free from high prices and low quality in our kitchens. And I have a wonderful guest here to make the best deviled eggs that you've ever had. This is my daughter, Hannah Parker. Hannah, thank you so much for being with us.
Hello everyone! Thank you for joining me for this deviled egg extravaganza. So it's possible to find these pre-made, however, they're really not any good and it's not rocket science to make them yourself. I used to really hate eating these eggs because most people make them really bland and really sweet, and that is not delicious. So these are in no way sweet and in no way bland either. And they're also very keto friendly. In other words, very low carb, delicious things that you can eat if you are a keto person. So what I've done is, the first thing that you do is break part of the egg, and it's wise to start on the wide end of the egg rather than the narrow end, because the wide end generally has a pocket of air there, so that when you break it right there on that pocket of air, it's kind of softer and more pillowy, and that's a good place to get your thumbnail in there and start peeling away the shells. So when you're using fresh eggs like these, they're extremely difficult to peel. The fresher the egg, the more likely that the shells will come away with a big chunk of the egg. So you want to try to chip away small pieces rather than try to get a big chunk of shells off. And so the technique for that is easier when you have broken the whole shell into really small pieces, which is why I've been doing small little taps and breaking it smaller with my thumbnails. That just makes the whole process of peeling a fresh egg a lot easier. If the eggs are old, then the membrane underneath the shell comes away, it kind of slips away from the egg very easily, and so your life is just really nice when that happens. This one's actually peeling easily, and I'm going to show you when I'm done with this one how to peel an egg that is very, very difficult to peel when it just starts coming away with the whole egg. Some of them are just basically impossible to peel. I've tried a lot of different tricks. I don't think there's any trick that I haven't tried on an egg that's difficult to peel. I've tried peeling them underwater, I've tried peeling them with running water, I've tried peeling them when they're warm, when they're really, really cold, when you go straight from warm to cold really fast. And none of it works that well on an egg that's truly difficult to peel. So when you've got an impossible egg, take a spoon, and after you've broken up the shell, get it underneath that little membrane that holds the shell together, and just gently shimmy it up to the top of the egg. And then very gently, carefully go all the way around the egg that way. Don't let the spoon edge dig into the egg, because then chunks of it will start coming off. And I think this is a little easier with a big spoon rather than a small one. So this egg, which was promising to be a very ugly egg when I was done peeling it, has actually turned out really well. And this is a time-honored and tested method for peeling fresh eggs. So once you have rinsed off your eggs, you just need to chop them in half and put the yolks into a bowl. I would always use a skinny knife, like as thin of a knife as you have, instead of a big wide knife, because that seems to cut the eggs a little bit more gently, and just use a really gentle sawing motion so it doesn't come apart. So my tips on boiling eggs are bring to a boil and then boil it for 10 minutes and then put in cold water. Or there's bring to a boil, take it off the heat, and let it sit not boiling in the hot water for 18 minutes. Then they need to be removed from that hot water or they will continue to cook. When they're all dumped in the bowl, you use a fork, is my favorite tool for this, and you just mash them until they turn into completely fluffy, tiny crumbs. So once you have it all mashed up, you want to put in your ingredients, a few different types of ingredients to season this. You're going to need something to make it kind of wet, so mayonnaise is a common thing. We're not going to use mayonnaise, we're going to use sour cream. Sour cream adds a nice tanginess also. The flavor profile of a deviled egg needs to be really rich and not bland, but also kind of tangy and maybe a little bit, not quite sour, but definitely tangy. So there's a few different ingredients that you can do to make it kind of acidic like that. Don't forget the garlic. And then the most important secret weapon of this egg recipe, which I never leave out, is bacon. It's not that common to put bacon in deviled eggs, but you'll never hear a word of complaint about the deviled eggs if there's bacon in them. So I'm using 2 bacon ingredients. One of them is bacon that I chopped up into little small pieces, and the other one is the fat that cooks off of the bacon, which I pour into this to make it taste very powerfully of bacon. And that is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. You really can't get too much bacon. So we've got sour cream, and you will notice I'm not measuring this because it's mostly by eye. That's probably like, I don't know, half a cup or slightly less. Really just dump stuff in, and then if it doesn't look right or taste right, I'll add more. I put either Dijon or spicy brown mustard, depending on which one we have. That's probably like a tablespoon and a half. I'm using this lovely, delicious homemade mustard that Mom made in a previous video, which is so pungent and wonderful and delicious. One thing that is important about mustard is that it makes the color of the filling bright yellow, which is very important. If it's not yellow enough, you might try adding some turmeric or something, because otherwise it might just be kind of pale, and that's not as appetizing and interesting to look at. Another way to make it look interesting and delicious to eat is a contrast in the color of your ingredients. So right now we have bright yellow, we have some kind of reddish bacon pieces, and then we have something green, which is very important for deviled eggs. So I have probably like 1/3 cup of very finely chopped green onions that Mom chopped for me, but you could also use chives. Maybe little tiny pieces of celery instead if you don't want it to taste too oniony, but I love onions, so this will be a very oniony egg. And because I love onions, I'm also putting onion powder, which is a different flavor from fresh onion. And I put a lot of that in just about everything that I make. Some garlic powder. I'm not putting that much garlic powder in it because I'm using this amazing roasted garlic that Mom likes to brag on in almost all of her videos. She's roasted it to a nice caramel color, and so it's going to be very flavorful and unusual. You can see how easy it is to just squish out. And it smells delicious. And it smells so delicious that I'm going to put some of this garlicky oil in here too. So it's looking and smelling very delicious. My other secret weapon is thyme, dried thyme. I put dried thyme in a lot of stuff. It's just unusual. And I probably put 1/2 teaspoon or 1/4 teaspoon of that. And then black pepper. I've got some chunky black pepper, and that's maybe 1/2 teaspoon. As I mentioned before about making it tangy, this is not really going to be tangy enough with just sour cream. So if I am chopping up pickles to put in it, which is very normal, then I would use a little bit of the pickle juice. For these, I'm using some of these tamed jalapeno peppers. So if you, it means that they're not as spicy. I don't know how Mezzetta makes them less spicy. They're not sponsoring this video, but that's just, I like using them because they're not gonna make it too hot. But I'm not going to use the juice because the juice is hot. So instead of that, I'm going to use some fresh squeezed lemon juice to give it that tang that I talked about. And that's all kinds of dishes that you wouldn't think need something like that. It often does need something that's a little bit sour, and it just wakes it up. You don't try these eggs and think, oh, it tastes like lemon. It's too sour. It just tastes alive and delicious. So when I have something small like this to cut up, I like using the big knife, because it's easier to do this mincing motion. And I try to make, if you have pickles or if you have pickled jalapenos or if you have olives or whatever you're chopping up that's like this, that's got a very strong flavor, you don't want someone to get a big giant bite of it. So you definitely want it to be cut very small so that the flavor of it mixes throughout the whole thing. As I mix, I am still pushing the fork down to make any chunks that are in here more fine and small. I have some lovely fresh dill, and it smells absolutely wonderful. It's got a lot more flavor than dried dill, but dried dill would work too. And I'm just gonna rip away the little thin leaves of it because that's the part that is best for chopping. I'm gonna put a lot of it because it's not that strong of an herb, and I don't want the flavor of it to get lost in the other flavors. Want to come taste this, Mom?
I do. thought you'd never ask. Cheers.
Salt. I forgot to put salt in it.
I think you could put some more jalapenos in it, and I think you could put some Dijon in it.
Okay.
That's my thought. I don't know. It'd be kind of, you know.
So I've got some kind of horseradishy mustard. Whoa. I'm gonna put like a tablespoon of that in there because the flavor needs to be woken up. Horseradish is another thing that you can put in something to wake it up. It does need more sliced or chopped jalapenos, so throwing those in there. I think it needs maybe even a little more salt than what I put before. All right, let's see what this does. Oh, you know what? Let's put the other half of lemon in it too. Cheers. That's more like it.
That is good.
Mm.
That's delicious.
Is it enough dill?
I think you could do a little more dill, actually.
And it's almost exactly right, so I just put a tidge more salt, and we're gonna go in with some more dill too, because it really isn't too strong of a flavor. Kind of want it to be a flavor explosion. It's not. If you've ever had a bland and sweetened deviled egg, then this is the exact opposite of that.
I think the roasted garlic adds a sweetness.
You think?
Yeah, it's not in any way an unpleasant sweetness.
You know what? I could throw in some more garlic. It's really hard to get too much roasted garlic because it is not it's not that strong of a flavor. Garlic loses its punch when you cook it, so it becomes something else entirely, something otherworldly when you slow roast it in olive oil. So I think I just increased our garlic clove count to like 5. One last mix. So the wet ingredient that we've used is sour cream. The hot, kind of pungent ingredients are horseradish and homemade mustard. The really rich, savory ingredients that we put in are roasted garlic, chopped bacon, and then melted bacon drippings also. And so, and then the acidic ingredients that we've used are chopped pickled jalapenos and fresh squeezed lemon juice. So those ingredients, those types of ingredients blended together create something very special and delicious. This time with butter knives, because we want you guys to know that we've been using fresh utensils every time we taste test. Right there. That's just about right.
That is good.
Okay, so
Oh my goodness.
the filling is perfection. So 2 things, you can either fill them with a spoon or you can pipe the filling in. If you have a Ziploc bag, if you just cut the tip off, like maybe, I don't know, maybe a 1/2 inch cut, then you can pipe it in and it's a little bit quicker in my opinion, but I'm using a spoon to show you that it's okay if it's not pretty, and I'm also showing you that it can in fact look more homemade and from scratch and appetizing if it's a little bit messy. So the filling increases in size because you've added this many ingredients, but I'm not crazily filling each egg until I've filled them all, and then when I have extra filling I will top off the ones that are a little bit lower. So here are our lovely deviled eggs all finished up with some smoked paprika, which tastes much better than normal paprika. They've got quite a generous amount. You can see the lovely color contrast with the white, the yellow, and the red. Very delicious, very appetizing. And thank you so much for joining us for this kitchen wisdom that you won't find anywhere else. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Thanks.